From end to end, it is your friend. Behold the width of Atlas. A lot of people don't realize to carry a bunch of stuff, you gotta be wide. And this is a very wide track and a wide interior. And you can haul your entire family and your next door neighbor's family and that family down the street that's got all them kids and that dog, that big old dog that slobbers all over everything. You can carry them all in the 2024 Volkswagen Atlas. Come, let me show you how. The Volkswagen Atlas. It came upon the scene fairly recently compared to a lot of the other competitors, but it's done very, very well on the marketplace, and there's a big reason why. It's all about the bigness of the thing. Now, what I mean by big in this case is overwhelmingly good interior room considering its size. It's a big car. I mean, it has a huge width on it. How wide is this car? It's 78.3 inches wide. Has a wheelbase of 117.3 inches, which is not the biggest in the class, but it's real close. And it still manages to fit in most garages, provided you have a fairly good sized garage and you don't have all that stuff cluttering it up so your car won't fit, or you pull in a little bit too far and you knock over that old dehumidifier that broke about 3 years ago. If you have a regular sized garage, it'll fit. But what it will also fit is a lot of people. It's a full 3-row SUV with 3 usable rows. And then you fold down your 3rd row and your 2nd row, and you have a massive cargo hauler. And you also have a surprisingly economical vehicle considering this hauling capability. This is largely due to the fact that they got rid of all the V6 engines that they were putting in the Atlas size, and they put in a turbocharged 4-cylinder, which so many other people are doing. But unlike most of the turbocharged 4-cylinders out there, this one is actually a little bit smaller. The wind is killing me. Hang on. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's a 2-liter. Now, most of the turbocharged 4-cylinders in this class are 2.5, 2.4, in that range. This is just a 2-liter. But while it does deliver a little less horsepower than some of the competition, it delivers very good fuel economy, as I have been discovering as I drive it along. But I'll tell you something. I can't get over the fact that it's such a roomy vehicle. And when you think about it, that's why you get a 3-row SUV to begin with. You probably don't buy a 3-row car if you don't have a bunch of stuff and people and dogs and all kinds of stuff like that to haul. Unlike all these people that are buying these crew cab, full-size pickup trucks that never haul anything, which is a whole different discussion. But I want to take you on a little journey with the very big car. This is one of the nicer of the, I'll tell you what, this is just like the compact SUV class, this is a very competitive class. The mid-size to almost full-size SUVs, because there's so many people that require a whole lot of room, and they live in a place where they need all-wheel drive. Now, this particular model we're testing, however, does not have all-wheel drive. It just has front-wheel drive, which to me is not very logical. But then again, if you live in the South, and if you live in places that don't get a lot of snow or no snow at all, you could save some money by getting the front-wheel drive version, and it gets better mileage than the all-wheel drive version. So, without ado, let us check under the hood and examine this 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. Here I told everybody I was going to show them the engine. Where is it? Where is it, Boots? Well, here it is. See? It's down here. It's down yonder. Woo! There we are. As promised, we have a 4-cylinder inline version of the 4-cylinder, which is pretty much all of them. And it's mounted transversely, as in this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, right like that. And the transverse mounting is, of course, always ideal for propelling the front wheels, because you literally, since the crankshaft is running this way, it's running directly in the same line that you want to put them gears to them front tires. And you got your drive shafts underneath there and a differential all attached to the transmission. So one of the advantages to having a front wheel drive vehicle like this is compact drivetrain situation, is what I call it. You can put everything right together, and it's all, your whole drive system is just right here. It doesn't have to run any other part of the car. It's just right in here and under the front hood. So does it bias the weight to the front? Yes, it does. But when you have such a big old thing like this Atlas, well, it doesn't matter as much, because you got a lot of butt on it that also weighs a lot. And so when you cross your butt with your front drivetrain, you have a pretty decent overall balance. I bet you didn't know that. Bet you didn't care, but that doesn't matter. Our turbocharger is right here in the back, which is pretty standard on 4-cylinders from all manufacturers. That's not necessarily true. Some like to put it in the front, but almost all of them like to put it in the back. And then we come around to the front, and this is where our intake system is, right down there. It's underneath this engine cover. Engine covers are fun because they seem to be disappearing, and yet with some cars they are not. But here's the front of the engine right here, and here are our drive belts, our serpentine. I said belts. I think there's only one serpentine belt. And we come over this way, and here's our massive air intake system. There's a big old air box here and a big old air filter underneath. It comes down and feeds right into that turbocharger. You can even see the end of the turbocharger there. Can you see? Wait, hang on. We're having a mutiny. There we go. Now then, there's the end of the turbocharger right there, and with the air going directly in there. Now what happens when it leaves the turbocharger? Well, first of all, the turbocharger is spun by the gas coming through the exhaust manifold. That turns a turbocharger unit, which is basically the little wheel in there that then is attached to your impeller, which the impeller actually is attached to another wheel, and that's where the compression of the incoming gas comes from. Now when you do that, whenever you compress the air, one bad thing happens. The good thing is that by having the air more compressed, the biggest advantage of that is, well, there's two. One is power, because it increases the amount of power, but the second is emissions, because you can burn it a whole lot more efficiency, much more efficiency in the combustion chamber if it comes in more compressed. And oh, there's the third advantage. If you live anywhere where you have a higher altitude, or find yourself going regularly to higher altitudes, turbochargers are very beneficial for that, because the thin air becomes not as thin when it's being compressed. And that's why the first place we ever saw turbochargers was on airplanes, especially during World War II, where they needed to fly higher altitudes on these fighter planes in particular. And so turbocharging allowed them to fly higher because they had enough power to do so. So that air then goes down into a intercooler, which is somewhere underneath all this air in your array of radiators and condensers. And then it comes back up, which you can't see because it's all kind of covered up, and goes into the intake system at a cooler temperature than it was when it came right out of the turbochargers. That's why we intercool our turbocharging. So what are the numbers? Well, first of all, we have, hang on, I'm gonna back up here. Back up, get my literature, there it is. Okay, 269 horsepower at 5,500 RPM at a peak. And your torques are 273 pounds of feet at a nice low 1,600 RPM. So that's really advantageous on a vehicle like this, where you could have 75 kids crammed in there with all their football gear and everything else. And you have that initial pickup that'll get you going smooth and easy, because of thankfully there's a turbocharger on board to help boost this tiny little 2-liter engine. Now, according to Volkswagen, if you have a trailer with brakes, it can be all the way up to 5,000 pounds and you're safe, and it will do that. Now, I don't know, about 269 horsepower, and this thing weighs, God, I put my stuff down, that was dumb. The curb weight on this is 4,343 pounds. So you're hauling that plus your 5,000 pound trailer with a little 2-liter 4-cylinder engine that puts out 269 horsepower. So think about that for a minute. If you're going to be towing all the time, you might want something a little more substantial, because, I mean, that's a lot of weight to be hauling around. Ah, yes. The width is the thing, and yet there is length as well. There's our 117.3 inch wheelbase. And, oh, what's our tire size? We need to know this, don't we? We sure do. We have the Kumhos, a very good tire. These are the Kumho Krugen HP 71. Is that Krugen? Yeah, I guess it isn't. Huh, well, how about that? I'm not real up on the Krugens. Maybe they are, they're probably a family of 10. What's our tire size? 255/50 B20? Is that what? R20. That's more like it. So these are 20-inch wheels. Holy guacamole. That's a big wheel. That's a huge wheel, actually. And as usual, it has these weird little Volkswagen thingies that are covering up the lug nuts. There are 5 of them. And as you can see, we barely see, but you can see, we have a good sized caliper, good sized rotor on this front brake. These are very nice all-season tires, M+S radial tubeless. It's a nice tire, the Kumho. They're made in Korea, I believe. It's a good tire. And then we have, like I said, our 117.3 inch wheelbase. But now the magic's about to begin here, because we're going to go take a look. We're going to swing wide. Let's swing wide, shall we? Come in here like this. There's that width I keep talking about. And look at them cool, even though it's a 4-cylinder engine, it has like little exhaust outlets that look much like what you'd have with your V12, but it's 4-cylinder inline. But there's our trailer hitch. It looks like somebody has used this trailer hitch, because I think there's a cover that goes over that normally. Huh, how about that? But that's a nice, substantial looking trailer hitch, and an easy to access. How many pins we have here? Ooh, that's a standard. Oh yeah, this is built for your 5,000 pound trailer. Very interesting. Let's have a gander inside here. Oh wow, oh wow. Let's start, shall we? Let's do that. Let's start with the 3rd row up. I want to show that. There's that. You see how difficult it is to put these seats up? I mean, it's such a chore, isn't it? Okay. Now then, we have our 3rd row up, and behind it, you still have a fair amount of cargo room, including these nice little cubbies back in here. There's a lot of room. There's one on each side. Look there. There's a lot of room with that. But anyway, 20.6 cubic feet, and there's that width. With all 3 rows deployed, so you got your passenger situation at 100%. And unlike a lot of the 3 rows we're seeing these days, these do not have captain's chairs. This has a bench seat in the middle, which I think is much more usable, especially if you have a family. Much more, I would just go that route if you can, because you can sit 3 people there. And with captain's chairs, you can only sit 2 unless 2 of them are rather intimate. All right, so now we'll put these back down after I put them up. Again, it's as hard to put them down as it was to put them up. There now. Now we have our third row folded, and yet we have 55 cubic feet of space. Isn't that something? And you have your 60-40 split, by the way, on your second row, and a 50-50 split on your third row. But look at all the room we have here. Now, if you're a really crazy mad person and you folded down that second row, 96.6 cubic feet of space. So like I said, this thing has a lot of room in it. It's pretty amazing that way. It also has a liftover height right here that is extremely, I'd say it's ion ideal, because it's high enough so you can take a big thing and set it down if you're carrying something that way, and low enough so that you have to take a couple of people and hoist the thing up into the back. It's low enough so that's not a big chore. So it's a fantastic compromise between those 2 designs, if you will. And again, wait till we experience together the third row seating, because it's actually very, very good for this vehicle. And it's the width, baby. It's so wide, the wideness of it all. Look at there. Look at there. I don't know where we'd be without all that width, but we would not have all that room. Isn't that impressive? Those are very impressive numbers. Okay, so styling wise, you know, we have something that's a little bit more of a wagon than a lot of the guys out there, that doesn't have that super fastback rear styling. And that's one of the reasons why you have all that room. Even with the third row deployed, you have all that room. And it has a nice kind of there is a bit of a family resemblance to the other Volkswagens, but not that great. I mean, the Atlas kind of looks like it's like itself. And of course, you also have the Atlas Sport, which is slightly different. But I think if you have all them kids living down the street from you and everything else that need to ride to school and stuff, this is the one you want. You want the full size. You want the whole Atlas package. None of this sport stuff. So there you have it. That's just your basic exterior with a exploration into the cargo area. Now we're going to go inside and have a look at the overall interior. And I want you to notice, if you can, how wide this thing is. I keep going on and on about that, but there's something about this car. It doesn't have the widest track in the class, but it has an extremely wide track of 67 inches. So that, and the fact that the overall width is 78.3 inches. Wow, that's like 5/12 or 6. That's over 5 feet wide. That's where all this space largely comes from, because it's not excessively long in the length department. And with no further ado, let's take a look at the interior of our Atlas SE front-wheel drive. So I get in the car, and it's already come to life, sorta. Look, we have a digital analog thing going on here. Look at all these fingerprints. Sorry about that. Shall I pull forward? Maybe I'll do that. Hang on here. We're going to activate. Now, interesting to note, we do not have the conventional up chair starter button thing. Here, down here, our starter button thing's right here. And there we go. Starting up. And we'll never stop. Park brake being released. And look at our little nubbin here. Deep. Volkswagen loves that nubbin. They put it on pretty much everything now. The nubbin. Okay, there we go. How's that? There we go. All right. Welcome to your instrument cluster. Do we have choices? I don't know. This is a very, very heavily touchscreen based system. Screen, date lanes, more keypad language. Yeah, no, I don't think that'll do any good. How about vehicle? Yes, what we're here about, right? You know. There we go. That's a great song, but I have to stop it because, you know. Cockpit. What do we have in our cockpit? Instrument cluster. It doesn't want to talk to me about the instrument cluster. Why is that? I don't understand. Well, the instrument cluster is eco tips. This all falls under the category. That's the way they're doing it. Since start driving dating, reset long-term driving dating, and eco tips. No, thank you. One thing this thing does, I believe, is tied in directly to the sensors that determine the temperature. But the electric seats here, and here we are, automatically come on for whatever reason. The temperature outside at the moment is 36 degrees, so that it has determined by itself that what's this smart climate? Maybe I can turn that off. Fresh air, warm hands, cooling. No. I don't want to do any of that. It's a classic climate. We're on automatic, so it is right now trying to determine exactly what needs to go. The air conditioner's on too to dry out the air, which is surprising to me also because it's very dry outside. But you know, the low temperature and all. You know your weather and your science, right? Of course you do. So we will now return to our instrument cluster that I can't appear to really do anything dramatic with. We do have a few adjustments here I can make, like this. Fuel tank display, gear display, average economy, no display. Ooh, let's hit that, see what happens. There's nothing inside there, okay. So we'll go back here, and we'll go back to economy, average economy, gear display, right, assist systems, operating. Ooh, let's look at that. Our oil temperature is 0. There is no oil temperature, there is no coolant temperature, but there will be. The engine is ticking over nicely, our little 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. And that's interesting stuff right there. Now what about over here? Over here you also have a selection inside the dial, if you will, of various things. Now navigation, this car does not have a navigation system. What happens if I sit at co? Roof guidance is not active. It's because there is none. Oops, that was my fault. Sorry. There we go. But you can have the audio, the telephone, speed, time, acceleration, compass, and destination info. But with no navigation system, we have a limitation of what you can actually look at there. But view, what's that do? Ooh, look at there. Look at what I've done here. I have a tachometer? No, I have nothing. Go back to this. There's a digital speedometer with nothing else, except for what I left on. You could put that on both sides. I imagine I could do average speed. There we go. What else do we have? That's where we're going to stick it right there, because that is the conventional way. This again is the SE model, which stands for super economy. I don't know what it stands for actually, but it's fairly light on the equipment roster. I will say that it has everything you need to haul your family around comfortably, that's for sure. But oh man, I tell you, this heated seat works really well. Let's turn it off. It's going too far. There we go. And then we'll go back to this, which is your main screen, like that. Like I say, no navigation, so I can't put an attractive map up there. But that's the main part of our display, and you have here, you know, various driving data. Wednesday, it's 9:06. It's 0 miles per hour. It's long-term driving data, and to change that, I don't remember exactly how that's done. You got the left and the right. You don't. Well, let's put it this way. That's where I want it. This tank has 179 miles on it. It's claiming that we're getting 25.1 miles per gallon. Now that's pretty good, but you got to remember this is front wheel drive only, this particular Atlas. So that's very good though. For a vehicle of this size and capacity, that's a nice number right there. So we're going to look around here because we got all kinds of stuff going on. We do have our paddle shifters here so that you can go into the sport mode and you can select your gears. There are a total of 8 speeds. I'll go down into sport here. There, we're in sport mode, and then minus and plus, right? Minus and plus. Whoops. There we go. Manual 1. We're in first gear. Now I'll go back, hit it again, and well, apparently you can activate a manual mode just by using the paddle shifters, and the sport mode is the sport mode, which has I would assume a few little adaptations, especially in terms of when you shift and that sort of thing. It probably shifts later in the rev range to give you more performance. That's what sport modes always try to do because they're sport modes. Okay, so where should we go? We'll go over to the left here because this is where our control center is for our headlights. And when the headlights are actually on like they are now, the indicator is here, right there, instead of up here where it belongs. But that's their choice. So again, okay. You also have front fog lights. You have for some reason, the maximum defroster for both front, right here. Like if I hit it, you can hear that, right? I hope so. That's the increase that you get when you put it on maximum defrost. Why that's all the way over here instead of like somewhere over here where most climate controls are in most cars, I have no idea. And the rear defroster is also over here. Boy, that's sensitive. Huh. There we go. But there's our mode for our, also our mode button for our headlights. So that's that section. And then we migrate over, then we have our standard, you can activate at the end of the turn signal stalk the safety system. You can turn on and off lane assist and all kinds of things, which is part of the travel assistant system. And it works reasonably well, as you will see when we drive around the car. It's nothing outstanding, but it does the job mainly. Here we have our cruise control area right here. This is on and off, and this is using the full boat travel assist, which means you have adaptive cruise control, and you also have what we like to call lane tracing. Basically tries to keep you in the center of your lane. Resume, set, plus, minus, that's how you adjust your speed right there. This is how you adjust the following distance of the adaptive cruise control. All contained within here. They used to have a stalk. Used to be right around all the Volkswagens and Audis. It was right down in here, right against this thing. They don't do that on this one, and I think they're probably phasing it out completely because it seems like everybody's going to right up here for cruise control for the most part. I like a separate one myself that you access with your fingers like down. I still like, my favorite is still the Toyota Lexus cruise control system because it's so easy to use and it's completely removed from anything else. With all this stuff on here, you can hit, like here's your volume control for your radio, and you can hit something by accident. I mean, people just do. Some people are all thumbs, you see, and you could accidentally do something to your cruise control, but it's not bad. I mean, it's not like they're right on top of each other, exactly. But to the right here is when I was going through all the different screens and things like that. That was right here, left and right, as you can see here. And here's our right side over here. There you go. And then here's our view that changes right there. And what else? Well, we have that's what I was thinking we have. I was wondering where it was. This is the steering wheel heating, which those of you who have never experienced that, it's a wonderful feature if you're somewhere cold. It really does make it a lot nicer. I mean, I know you got on your $300 Ferrari driving gloves or something like that, but in case you left them at home, you have a nice heated steering wheel to keep your hands warm while the rest of the car is heating up, and then you turn it off or you will burn yourself. They're pretty hot, these steering wheel heaters. Okay, so as we migrate over to the main screen, I have no navigation. See, I keep going on and on about navigation. They're disappearing on some cars. You have to get them a subscription for others, and a lot of people just assume that you are going to use your phone for all your navigation, and you have things like CarPlay and Android Auto, which I think are available on this. I'm not entirely possible. That really matters to a lot of people. Not me. I usually just turn it off. Don't use it at all because I like the car to have everything it needs to be a car. And a navigation system is one. And there's still companies like, I don't know, Hyundai, that on the upper end models or in most models you have a navigation system. And it's completely self-contained and it works great. And it's on this nice big screen. Speaking of which, the image quality on this screen is exactly what you would expect from a German manufacturer. It's excellent. Your basic HD stuff. Here we go, radio. Let's go there. This, by the way, is one of the most confusing interfaces I've ever seen in terms of setting up your stations. When I say confusing, what I'm talking about is counterintuitive. There's not a whole lot of logic to it to me. You have to just learn how the car wants you to do stuff. And you got things like settings and everything else that you can access. Fairly straightforward, but what if you want this to just go away? Let's go up to favorites again, and I just want it to go away. And it won't. I don't know how to make that go away. Because as you may notice, this is just weird to me. As you may notice, earlier when I had this vehicle, a lot of this stuff was obscured by this little sub-menu over here. Doesn't seem to be doing it now, which is good, but it was absolutely doing it at first, and I had to kind of reach around the corner here. It's very sensitive to you coming close to it. It reacts, which is good or bad. I also have I believe there is let's go here and go here and go here. I think there is hand gesture. I have that turned off. I hate that. I absolutely hate hand gestures because if you're a person that just does a lot of stuff with your hands when you're driving the car, you can accidentally change the screen when you don't want to. It's as simple as that. It's the same thing with voice interfaces. If you're talking to somebody, say a child in the back seat is being unruly, then you're sitting there talking to the kid and something in your voice, a word or something that may trigger, and all of a sudden you're talking to the car. And can I turn that off? Yeah, I think I can. I'm not real sure about that. Let's go to Spanish or French. Mode advisory, restore. Yeah, it's somewhere, but again, counterintuitive. I like something that has my favorite thing. When I get in a car nowadays, and it actually has a volume knob, on-off knob, and a tuning knob. That's very familiar to me, but it's also really easy and really fast to use. This way, it's not easy to find other stations, and you will be, the more time you spend looking at the screen, the more distracted you're going to be. And we don't want that. You don't want that distraction. So we will now drop down below here, and there is our what? It's kind of a main, there's the park menu, which is the camera setup. I guess it's not doing a lot that I ask it to do, but what's this? This is all part of, It's all part of setting up your parking situation. Is it safe to move? Well, I don't know. I mean, it depends on how bad you want to move. But that's you can just access that with that switch. This assist button right here is very interesting because it basically defines what you're doing as far as your driving assistance situation. And this is your following distance. See, it's reacting to my gestures even though I don't have the gesture thing turned on. You saw it, it was turned off. But there you go. They want to interact. They're trying to pull you in with these touch screens. It's frightening, really. What else we have? Here's mode. And we have, oh, there we go. We have 4 modes. Eco, Comfort, Sport, and Custom. Well, son of a gun, go back. I'm not done with you yet. We'll go to Comfort. I haven't even been riding around on Comfort. I didn't know it was there. That's my fault. But anyway, there is absolutely nothing in this cluster down here that will tell you, that's enough of that, that will tell you, what do I want up here? I want, there. That will tell you what's going on with your climate system. There's nothing there. And I think that's dumb. Personally, I don't like it. I think it's dumb to have it all in this. Now, when we drop down a little bit further, on our left side, we have excellent QI wireless charging for your mobile device. And then we have a couple of USB-C ports that you can use to plug in your, guess it, yes, USB-C items, accessories. The shifting quadrant area here, I've touched on already. But what you have, here's your park switch. Here's where you start the car and stop the car, right next to the park switch. This is our nubbin, which is how you put it in reverse, neutral, drive, and sport mode. And then your parking brake is back here. So, I don't have anything bad to say about this, really. It's different. It's much, much smaller, and it is becoming the standard on Volkswagens of all types. That's their new system, and they're sticking to it. We have 2 cup holders. Thank you. And what's in here? What's in here? A very nice USB-C port and a lot of storage. And a mask. And that's pretty much it. But it's fairly deep. It's not as nice as this glove box over here, which has a lot of room in it, as you can see. Isn't that nice? And then we have, while we're over here, this beautiful pleated upholstery is called something Tex. It's called VTEX Leatherette Seating. And as you can see, it's highly perforated for your ventilation and your just general overall comfort. Does it feel like leather, this synthetic, this amazing duplicate of leather that is not leather, this textile from another world? Yeah, it's good. It's nice. It's very comfortable. And you have reasonably good side bolsters for support in if you get all crazy with your cornering. But this thing is not really built to be a sports car, but it does handle very competently. I mean, it's with the wheels at all 4 corners of a giant box. It's very stable, and as you will see, it does okay in crosswinds too. So the trim is interesting on this because I don't know if this is plastic or metal. I think it's plastic, but it is faux wood, and it kind of looks nice. It kind of looks classy. It gives the interior a very. It's not what I would call Spartan, but at the same time, it's not over the top. It's nice. I really think the designers did a real nice job with the overall look of this. Now this is interesting. My steering wheel. You saw how long I had the steering wheel heat on, right? Hardly any time at all. Whoo! It's still warm. Nice, huh? Nice. Radio, go back to radio. Oh dear, it's taking over. I don't like touchscreens when they don't cooperate with me and do my will. What do we have up here? We have no panorama or sunroof or anything like that. So again, you only have front wheel drive. You don't have any kind of a panorama on this thing. And you don't have a navigation system, so bear that in mind. But what you do have is this wonderful, wonderful thing called room. Now what we're going to do, we're going to go to our second row, and it's an interesting thing. Look at the size of that rear door. It actually looks bigger to me than the front door is. I mean, and that's fantastic for hauling your passengers. Oops. Hey man, come on. I don't understand why it's doing that. I don't understand you. There we go. I don't understand why you do what you do. Almost 90 degrees, but look at that maw. That can suck in even your oldest relatives that have mobility issues. Ugh. And what do we have? We have a bench seat. Yay! Very, very practical, the bench seat. And terrific if you've got like kids, dogs, and other things like that, because it gives you so much versatility. And naturally, the seat back does fold in 60-40 increments. So it's brilliant. The load floor here, your foot area, completely flat floor. So you have, look at all this room you got here. I mean, just look at it. You got plenty of headroom. Headroom is not an issue. You could wear your Stetson without any problem in this back seat. And I really like the fact that it seems to be geared towards all sizes of humans. And I just reclined the seat a little bit, and that's great to be able to do that, but you would expect that because you got so much room. You also have these wonderful shades to keep the sun out, which is becoming more oppressive all the time. And you got these tiny little, you'd have a hard time getting your larger, well, you could fit your larger tablets in there, but a magazine would just fit, yep. And you got one on both sides, which is nice. You also have some climate controls for this seating area, which is great because there's so much room between the back seat here and the front seat there that you're in your own little ecosystem back here. So it's good to have that. You got some real nice map lights here. Look at that dual. They got dual lenses on them. Very, very nice. And what else? Let's see how our windows do here. Do they go down 100%? Oh, of course. Let that dog get his head out there and get some ventilation. So this is a really nice place to be. But the big question on a vehicle like this, since it is a 3-row vehicle, is how is that third row? Well, let's see. How do we access the third row? I believe we, let's see. I'm just doing this for the first time here. Like that. Slide and fold. Look at there. Look at there. Let's get back there. Let's see if I can do this without hurting myself. Hang on. Ugh. Yeah. There we go. Now we'll slide this back. No, we won't. What happens when we do that? I'm having a real good time with this car. This is going to be one of the more entertaining videos with the, there's got to be a simple way to pull that back. This doesn't appear to be it right here. No, that doesn't do it. That doesn't do it. How about this? That's how you do it. It couldn't be easier if it tried. And I'll get it back here. Well, oh, I slid it forward. Okay, I understand. I'm figuring it out. Now, I'm now raising my headrest, and I'm now seated like a normal person, and there's plenty of room back here for 2 adults. You could get 3 children pretty easily, and they can have lights. Should they choose to do something insane, like read a book, they could do that back here. Do we have ports to plug in their devices? Yes, we have 2 USB-C ports. You also have 12-volt access right here, which is good. And, so I was just thinking about something I would do if I was a designer, but I won't bore you with it. We have cup holders that look really small, like they understand children are often going to be back here. That's a 12-volt. I was trying to... As I showed you earlier, you have all these side cubby areas in the back of the rearmost cargo area that are very convenient, actually. I put some stuff back there just to see how they work, and it's quite good. So you have plenty of room here for 2 people. I have the seat forward just a little bit here. I don't know how it magically knew I wanted to do that. But I'm very impressed by the room you have now. Now, if the seat is all the way back, let's see over here how we do here. And I gotta raise this. There we go, the headrest. Yeah, you can still fit by. I'm 5'8" on a good day, and I got room. It's not bad right here. You're one of the common problems with third rows is the fact that the floor seems high, so you have a bend to your knee. You see, but this is not too bad. It definitely does have a high floor, but not an excessively high floor, and still the headroom goes on. You have plenty of headroom back here, so. That is the big feature that is the most important for a lot of families that are thinking about this. They're thinking about, gee, should I get a minivan or should I get this thing? Well, this has more ground clearance, and that's the biggest difference between that and... For one thing, I'm delighted you can still get minivans because for some families, they are the way to go. And we have several brands that Kia's still making them and Toyota's still making one. And, you know, it's not like Nissan is making one. It's not like what's going on with sedans right now where there are so many manufacturers that don't even make them anymore. Fortunately, you still have a choice between, you don't have to get an SUV, you can get a minivan, they're still out there. But they've done a really good job at taking an SUV like the Atlas, which means vast room on my back as I walk up through the universe. That's what Atlas means. You have a lot of minivan type space in it, but you also have the format that everybody seems to like so much in terms of SUVs, a big wagon instead of a minivan. So, worth considering. I like the fact that they've done a real neat job with just the basics on this vehicle, but it's still not exactly cheap, but nothing is. But the SE model is is it the bottom of the range? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think there are only 2 model designations you can get. And this one doesn't have all the bells and whistles by a long shot. In fact, like I said, it doesn't even have all-wheel drive. But it has everything. If you live in a climate where you don't need all-wheel drive, it has everything you need to function as the main Conestoga wagon for your family. So, room, and more room. Well. All right, we're leaving now. Oh boy, let's see here. Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me there? I'm having trouble with my official red-green shirt and my microphone. They don't like each other very much, which is understandable. But I think I've got it rigged on here so that it'll work because the woman don't find you handsome, at least let them find you handy. Who's beeping at me? Who's trying to have speaks with me? Well, now this is a stop sign. Can you guys see that stop sign? Wow, that's a stop sign. It's got little flashing lights on it and everything. Where are we, wonder? Where is this quaint community? This quaint community is West Hartford, Connecticut. And it is very quaint and very nice. You got a lot of interesting houses here because it's a mix of much older houses that have been around that are in perfect shape and newer houses that follow the architecture, generally speaking, of the area. So we're in front-wheel drive because that's all this has. I still don't get it unless you live in somewhere in the south where you never see any precipitation heavier than rain. That you'd have a sport utility that doesn't have all-wheel drive. And this is, of course, available in all-wheel drive with the same, with the exact same, in fact, drivetrain, basically. We have our our little 2-liter turbo, and we have our 8-speed automatic transmission. One thing all German cars have had, I feel like for a long time, that's been very, very good, is their automatic transmissions have been very smooth. Mercedes, to me, is still the benchmark for the ultimate in smooth shifting automatics. However, the lead that they used to have, I think, is going away. But where is this? Hang on there. I want to figure out where this transmission's from. Let's see here. I can't read this. Oh, this is that Monroney I printed out. Quiet. Train coming. This is the Monroney I printed out that I can't read. That's no help to you. Oh, here we go. Canadian parts, 32% Mexico. It's built in Chattanooga, Tennessee, USA is where it's assembled. The engine is from Mexico, and the transmission is Japanese. So, multi-sourcing, worldwide automobile. Interesting that I have, let's see here. I do have engine stop-start, which seems to work really well. I don't see the one big problem I've had since the first time I sat in this incredibly roomy vehicle is the control interface. Here's how I make friends. It's almost as bad as, it's about as bad as Toyota's is now. So much is moving over to the touchscreen, and there's a bunch of things that I think really command the need for dedicated switches to make things easier. And this has very few switches on it, very few. Oh, this guy's just gonna run right into me. How about that? He has no idea he's messing with Atlas and its vastness. One of the things a friend of mine pointed out about this car that's getting to be unusual when you have a 3-row vehicle these days, more and more and more of them, they're coming standard with captain's chairs in your second row, and not as many have bench seats. This has a bench seat in the second row, and this particular friend of mine, who happens to have children and dogs and all kinds of things, he said, especially with the kids, he says it is so much better to have a bench seat in the second row instead of captain's chairs. And I think that's in terms of versatility, I think that's absolutely true. It's much better to go that route. This vehicle has got a number of interesting things about it. One of which is, its number one attribute is room. It is so roomy in this thing. And it's not huge on the outside, but it is huge on the inside. And it also, a big part of that room comes from the fact that it's a very wide vehicle. It has a much wider track than most of the competition. Because I believe this is, let's see if this thing will tell me, if I can read it. Yep. I'm not sure what the EPA calls this, but I call it a mid-size sport utility. And bordering on, it's kind of like the Chevy Traverse, it's bordering on being a full-size. But you got all this room, and with that wide track, you also have a wide body that just makes an already roomy car in terms of headroom and legroom that much roomier, because you have side-to-side additional room. It's great stuff. That's the thing about this particular vehicle that is so desirable. We have now activated our adaptive cruise control, and we'll see how she does. This is a real crazy stretch of highway as we go into Hartford, Connecticut, because this particular, every major city I've driven in or ridden motorcycles in, either in America, is always the same. Once you get into the city proper, you get all kinds of crazy mix-master type road construction that can be very, very vexing if you're from out of town. Unfortunately, I know this quite well, but if you're from out of town, you'll instantly be in a situation where there's almost any time of day there'll be a lot of traffic. And it's going, and the people that live there drive fast because they know the road really well. And it can be daunting in some places. Hartford is not that bad in that regard compared to some other cities in America. But it can be a handful. And you got all these surprisingly tight turns, multi-lane tight turns, that will throw you off. Now we have our adjustment. Wait a minute. What the hell? We now have it set to about 1.5, 2. I guess that's 3 car lengths. That's 2 car lengths. So our adaptive cruise control is reading to the 2 car length level. And boy, oh boy, we are feeling lucky today because, well, it's a weekend. That's one thing. The traffic is not as bad, but usually there's all kinds of commuters going in and out. It doesn't really matter what time of day it is. There's just a lot of people moving in and out of town. This thing, as wide as it is still feels very maneuverable in traffic, and it's also pretty easy to park. It has a good turning radius on it. So you got all this space and all this room. I think that's one of the reasons I see quite a few of these around. I think they're very popular, and they used to up until, well, shoot, this is a 24 model. I'm gonna say this may be the first. Yeah, this is the first year because they said it's an extensive refresh. And up to this point, you normally would have been driving with a V6 engine. But now we have the turbo 4-cylinder, which is across the board. The V6 has left. It's left the building. It's no longer here. But the acceleration on this little turbo is very nice. And it also, generally speaking, is not real peaky. It doesn't give you real hard hits. I haven't played with the drive modes. I don't know if there are any on this car. This car is the SE model, which is a whole lot of stuff it doesn't have. It doesn't have a navigation system, as you may have noticed. It does not have any kind of a moonroof, sunroof, panoramic, any kind of that. It just has a steel roof or aluminum. I don't know which. I could test that for you. It doesn't have that. There's just all kinds of bits and pieces that you would kind of expect on a price in this price range. But then again, when you're comparing something like a Volkswagen, just let's say a Hyundai, which I just had, for the same price, I just tested a Hyundai that was almost exactly the same price as this. Compact SUV. It's not a 3-row SUV. It's a little smaller. Same price, but it had so much. Well, why is it talking to me? Oh, look, it's one of those things. Cancel. Cancel.
Cancel.
That's something I hate about these cars, because I haven't gone in and turned that. Why is the heated seat on? The heated seat has a mind of its own on this car. I have so many settings I need to go in and change. Because I find this interface to be terrible. It's counterintuitive. I mean, if I own the car after a while, I'm sure I'd get used to it and know where everything is, and it will probably be fine. But from first glance, from going from a vehicle that had a good interface to this, they really need to work on this stuff because it's not intuitive. And they say, no, it's not intuitive just to you. Well, that may be, but I drive more cars than they do from more different manufacturers than they do. And so I know everything that's out there. Excuse me. And this is not a good interface. It annoys me. And what's the big problem? Why do we have so many collisions nowadays and so many fatalities on the road when we have the safest cars we've ever had? And more ways to keep them safe as far as your driving ability. You have a lot of different things that can now help you stay safe. Well, the problem is people get distracted all the time.
Now, listen up back there. If you children don't start to behave yourself, I'm gonna turn this car right around.
See, this is one of the things you have to practice if you're going to have a 3-row, because you know, if they're in the second row, they're not as likely to get into mischief. But if they're way in the back of this thing, which is pretty much in another county, you know, in the case of New England, they're in another town back there. They'll get into all kinds of stuff, and they have things they can plug in to things that should not be plugged in there, and there's pretty much no end to what they might do. So you got to keep an eye on them. Do we have the thing? No, we don't have the thing on this thing. A lot of vehicles like this have a little, well, it's usually a sunglass holder, and there is no sunglass holder here. And you pop it open and it has a parabolic mirror on it. You know, a lot of manufacturers have that. This does not have that. So you need to use your rear view mirror to keep an eye on what's going on with them children back there. Children, stop doing that, children. I'm telling you, this is not a minor thing. You need to keep abreast of these items and accusations. That's very, very important for you to do. I would not exaggerate about this, and I am not. Hang on back there. Woo-hoo! And you want to toss them around a little bit also. That'll discipline them while they're riding in the back of your 3-row. Welcome, friends. We have here our genuine, which I love, our green dot rear suspension on our 2024 Volkswagen Atlas. And this being front-wheel drive only, this particular model, you can naturally get it with all-wheel drive. We have a great void right in here where you might at one time would have expected to see a differential right here and drive shafts running hither and yon. No, not on this one. All we have is just a regular rear suspension, although you can see where everything is set up here to place a rear differential. Instead, we just have this simple device here. And we got your standard upper and lower control arms. Here's our lower arm. Here's our, oops, where is it? There's almost like a mini panhard rod that locates that part of the wheel. And then we have our upper link right there, and then our coil spring, and then our rear shock absorber. I always find rear suspension so much more interesting than front suspension, simply because there's more variation in the rear than there is in the front that I have observed. On various models, manufacturers come up with all kinds of interesting ways to suspend things. And this, incidentally, is your plastic shield that is there to, I guess, protect the lower arm a little bit. Facilitate sliding over rocks, maybe? I don't know. As you can see, there's quite a bit of ground clearance to this thing, and a very flat muffler right there. And then these big plastic pieces. This is all plastic, not that kind of... most manufacturers on the more automotive side are covering the bottoms of their cars with kind of a... I don't know what to call it. It's almost like a fuzzy thing. But this is just nice hard plastic, which is has its own advantages, to be sure. Oh, well, there's another link right there that I didn't even see. Wait a minute, where is it? This thing is getting unreliable like everything else in life. But as we go over here, you can see from this angle, we have a very generously sized rear braking. Whoa, sorry, the sun about that. There we go. The rear brakes and everything over there. You got a real nice shield here to protect it from debris, because that's the last thing you want is your debris onto your braking system. We have a sway bar, anti-sway bar right here. And naturally this is your subframe that all your suspension accoutrements and components are attached to separate it from the regular unibody, which is all the rest of this stuff here. Well, let's look here. Here we go. There's your unibody, and there is a structural element here for rear collision protection and that kind of thing, as well as tying into your trailer hitch, because you can tow 5,000 pounds with this if the trailer has brakes on it. But as you can see, we just isolate and mount this big substructure onto the unibody, and that's pretty much standard practice with everything that has a unibody. If you have a body on frame construction, all this stuff is not there. Instead, the suspension attaches pretty much directly to that. So that's where we've come in automotive evolution in the past 40 or 50 years. So very interesting. I keep staring at this right here because I keep expecting to see a differential right here, but there isn't one because we just have front wheel drive, which is sad really. But as I mentioned before, lots of ground clearance for your mild off-road excursions. This is not an off-road vehicle in terms of hardcore-ness, but it is a perfectly adequate vehicle to drive on, well, forest service roads and that kind of thing. It should do fine. You don't have a real super heavy-duty reinforced rear suspension on this thing. Instead, it's more aimed towards ride comfort for your passengers on normal roadways. And that's pretty much the same for every other sport utility crossover that's in the category. That's pretty much how everybody does it. But overall, it's a nice, tidy situation, and you do have, if you can see all the way up there, right in there, we have a nice flat. It's not really a skid plate, but that's its function. It's just not going to be able to take you over rocks or things like that. But it offers a lot of protection for just life's hazards, just your basic road debris and stuff that we see all the time, that if it doesn't puncture your tire, it can knock something loose underneath in your drivetrain, and you don't want that. The only ones that are even smoother than this, of course, are the electrics, which are great because they usually just have a flat bottom where the battery is located. So, but they're getting better and better as far as making these things more aerodynamic on the underside, which is they finally realized they can improve gas mileage quite a bit, especially on the highway, if we had a much smoother airflow over the lower part of the chassis where the drivetrain is. And so pretty much everybody's doing this more and more, and you're seeing it more and more enclosed. And it's not a problem. I mean, some mechanics look at it, oh man, I got to take all this stuff off. Yeah, but it's easy to take off. It's not real complicated. You just got a few bolts in there that you just undo, and it falls right down, and it doesn't weigh anything. So there you go. So, with this said, I hope you have enjoyed our green dot rear suspension on our 2024 Atlas SE front wheel drive. Well, there we have it. There's our 2024 Volkswagen Atlas SE with technology. The EPA rating is a 20 around city and 27 on the highway. We got about 20 overall, which is pretty decent for a vehicle of this massive size. Did I mention it's wide? It's very wide. How about the price? Well, our suggested retail price is $41,665 before options. With options, we came to $43,015. So it's a really roomy vehicle, and it's a really good bid for your family if you don't require all-wheel drive, in which case you should really get the all-wheel drive version, in my opinion. But overall, it does everything nicely. It's a real pleasant driver, and boy, has it got a lot of space. So thanks for watching. You can be careful out there, and we will see you next time.
Do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube, you eat like the tube, you raise your children like the tube, you even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion.